What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Eye on the U, the Miami Herald show about all things Miami Hurricanes. I'm Andre Fernandez, your host, joined as always by Jordan McPherson, our University of Miami beat writer. Interesting time for the Canes overall. We're in the offseason for football. We're getting ready for March Madness in basketball. And baseball season has begun. It began in a good way at first, but then a little bit of a reality check this past weekend. Facing the rival Florida Gators. We're going to talk about all three sports on this show, the men's and women's teams in basketball, like we said, getting ready for March Madness. But let's start with that national runner-up football team that's trying to reload for another run and clear the final hurdle the next season and get to a national championship. Jordan, we're before you know it, spring football will be right here. It's getting close. It's getting closer. But Miami, not only on the field, but their coaching staff is taking shape. 2 new coaches hired. They have a new running backs coach, and they have a new tight ends coach. They're still, as of this recording, trying to hire a cornerbacks coach, but Mario has got the staff almost complete. Tell us a little bit about these new acquisitions, Jordan.
Yeah, Andre. So, like you said, 2 of the 3 vacancies that they had over the offseason have been filled. Fabian Upshaw will be the new running backs coach, replacing Coach Matt Merritt, who left to be a coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Fabian Upshaw comes from the Denver Broncos. He was one of their offensive quality control assistants for the past 3 years, working with their running backs. And prior to that, he has coaching experience at the college level at Georgia Southern and Tulane. He was a running backs coach at Georgia Southern in 2021, grad assistant at Tulane. Also has some experience at some lower level colleges at Benedict College and Savannah State. But, I mean, when you look at him, he has such a great room to work with. I mean, Mark Fletcher's back, Charmar Brown's back, Jordan Lyle's back, Gerard Pringle's back, Javian Mallory comes in as a true freshman. So he has 5 quality running backs to work with. So really, whoever got that role was coming into a great spot. Yeah. The tight ends coach is Mike Vitti. He has been at Army for the past decade. Most recently as their offensive line coach, previously as their fullbacks coach. And he's a guy, he played fullback at Army when he was in college from 2004, 2007. Served in the Army for a few years upon graduation, was deployed out in Afghanistan, and then came right back to his alma mater. And he's just known around the college ranks as a very high-quality, high-standard guy, and it fits the mold of the culture that Mario Cristobal wants to set. He's going to fit in that aspect perfectly. The tight end room itself, again, there's not much turnover. Alex Bowman's gone, but you look at Elijah Lofton, didn't really have the breakout year that the Hurricanes were hoping he would have as a sophomore. Injuries did play a significant role in that. He was banged up a lot to start the season. Didn't play in the national championship game because of injury. But you have Lofton back. You have a couple other younger guys that should be able to be well. They have a couple 4-star freshmen coming in. Big news that our Barry Jackson reported earlier this week. Cole McConaughey, one of their high prospect edge rushers from a couple years ago, is actually moving over from DN to tight end this year, which would be more as an inline blocker, a role that they didn't really utilize too much, but it will give them another option out on that front. But those are the 2 that have been hired so far. They still need a cornerbacks coach to replace Zach Etheridge, who joined Matt Merritt in going to the Arizona Cardinals. But their staff is almost complete with spring ball starting a little bit later this month.
Yeah, basically the clock ticking for that, but it's good for them to have the pieces in place already, Jordan, and replace the spots there with good people. Like you said, coming from that Army program, when you talked about discipline, I mean, right there, no explanation needed. I'm sure that will be good qualities to bring in to the culture that Mario Cristobal is trying to build here in Miami. Any other updates with the team? I know we're going to talk a little bit about the combine and how guys that have departed Miami are doing, but anything else that has happened in recent days?
Not really. I mean, it's been pretty quiet right now. I mean, that's sort of been by design. They pushed spring ball to later this year because after the long national championship run, Coach Cristobal wanted them to have a little bit more time. They're going to ramp things up very quickly once spring ball does start. But yeah, it'll be later this month. Most likely it'll start after spring break. They usually, in years past, they would do their first week, the week before spring break, then take a full week off, and then go right into pads week 2. But it seems like they're going to do more so just having everything go after spring break and then push out to a little bit later this year, basically going towards the end of the spring semester, which again, either way, you get 15 practices no matter how you slice it. So whether you do 3 days a week for 5 weeks, or do things where you do 3 weeks of 4 days of practice and then a 3-day week practice, they just have to figure out how they want to best utilize their 15 days. And it seems like they're going to do more of a tightly condensed spring this year versus spreading it out over 5 or 6 weeks like they have in years past.
So looking at the combine, though, in Indianapolis last week, some eventful one for Hurricanes prospects. Ruben Bain, all the memes out there. I honestly, as someone who covered him, that annoyed me a little bit, because I'm like, all right, that's fine. He has raptor arms until he kills your quarterback, and then you're going to see how long his arms really are. I think he's going to be just fine. I mean, what'd you make of that? Just people having some silliness about him, or what'd you make of all that?
It's so ridiculous. I mean, it just look at the tape. That to me is really what you should be looking at. I mean, I still remember, I think a couple of the recruiting services were like, yeah, the high school numbers aren't going to translate to college because of the size of the makeup or whatever. And then he only logs 33 and a half sacks in 33 and a half tackles for loss, 20 and a half sacks in 3 years. And then the second year of which, remember, he was hurt basically all of last year, or his sophomore year, I should say, 2024. And he was hurt that year and still got 5.5 sacks. This year, 15 and a half tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. His freshman year, 12 and a half tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. 4 forced fumbles, 2 pass breakups, an interception, 3 pass defended, 121 tackles. Again, with one of those 3 years being probably barely 60%.
Right.
He's good.
Exactly.
He's good. And he did that at Miami against big name teams. He stepped up in every situation. That playoff run between him and Akeem Mesidor, we're going to talk about a little bit during this combine stuff too. They were both absolutely phenomenal. And if he slips because everyone's looking at his arm length, those teams that skip out on him are probably going to regret it.
Slip down a little more, Ruben. Yeah. That's fine.
I mean,
get right down to that.
There's a certain team ranked number 11 that might be looking there.
Get right down to that team in aqua and orange. I don't think anybody's going to cry down here. So no. if the 10 in front of them don't want them, hey, that's fine. We'll take a Raptor.
Yeah.
So Carson Beck, not a bad performance overall. The notable thing, kind of on the offbeat side, these Indiana fans booing him at every time, almost like in a basketball game when you're booing the guy that's dribbling at every turn. I mean, what's your take on that, Jordan? Silly? Again, do I say desperate and silly, or is that just them being hardcore fans that they'll boo you even at a combine?
I think it's a healthy mix of both. And I hate to say a healthy mix, because why? Again, the season's over. You guys won. Celebrate your moment, sure, but do it once, okay. Do it throughout the entire thing. Why? I mean, right. I get fandom. I know how animated and spirited and committed sports fans are, specifically college sports fans. But all in all, I mean, Beck was, with the way that Beck performed at the combine, he looked good. I mean, I looked at some of the reviews from ESPN, CBS, all that, and they said that he looked like one of the better quarterbacks out there. And who knows? Again, Beck's case for the draft has always been a curious one, especially after. I mean, he did what he needed to do for UM to get them to the national championship game. Was he the main reason they got there? No. Did he show that he can be a winner? Yes. And the fact that he did as well as he did, and everyone loving how people do at the combine when it comes to reflecting their draft, and just with how quickly quarterbacks rise up if they do even the slightest bit well, who knows? Maybe this could get him up to a day 2 draft spot, especially with what the quarterback class is. So remember, so many of those big guys that they thought were going to come to the draft didn't, or underperformed last year, or got hurt in Drew Allar's case from Penn State. So could Beck potentially go up to a day 2 pick, a round 2, round 3? If he has another good outing at Pro Day and does well with the interviews, which after being around him for a year, I know he is going to do well there, he's got a shot to potentially get his name a lot earlier than maybe we thought at the end of the season.
Look, quarterbacks are always needed in the NFL, whether it's for a starting role, compete for a starting role, depth, a backup, that sort of thing. And you're right. I think that this performance, you never know. It could nudge him. I mean, it's not going to be anything crazy where suddenly he's a first-round pick, I don't think. But day 2, I don't see why not. I mean, especially I think the biggest point is like that what you said. It's not a deep class. When you go after Mendoza, Why not? I mean, I think there's a lot of teams out there that could use a Carson Beck. At least bring him into, sign him, bring him into camp. That for sure could be like at least one of your backups. Have him compete for the starting job if he ends up on a team in that sort of situation, or at the very least, like I said, just depth, something like that. We'll see.
No doubt about it. I mean, yeah. And when you look at this quarterback class again, like you said, Fernando Mendoza is at the top. You have Ty Simpson from Alabama. You have Gary Nussmeier from LSU. You have Beck. You have Drew Aller from Penn State, who was hurt all of last year, so that still didn't really get a chance to build off of Penn State's playoff run from the year before.
I'd argue after you get to that fourth, fifth name,
after that, it's a complete
not a big difference, right?
Yeah, after that, you go to Luke Altmaier from Illinois. You go to Cole Payton from North Dakota State. That's, again, you see where after the day 2 crew, teams will probably be reaching and being desperate. You're going to have, and that's where this really plays into Carson Beck's hand right now.
Yeah. Although you still, I think after those first 2, maybe 3 you mentioned get taken, you could see where there's a bit of a gap where you're sitting there and there's no quarterback taken for a while. That could happen too. But either way, I mean, I think it kind of bumps him up a teeny bit, at least to maybe have a little bit higher draft stock now. So it'll be interesting to follow. Other things to follow, I guess, what's next for the program and pro days coming up.
Before we do that, just a couple more quick combine standouts.
We didn't talk about Keem Mesidor and others. That's right.
Yeah, we have Mesidor, who just, again, he keeps rising up the draft boards. The thought was maybe he could be a late first round pick, but it's looking like he might get into that mid first round, which, again, good for him, fantastic for him. Francis Malinoa, we all know he's probably gonna be a top 10 pick. The one guy I want to highlight really quick though, Markel Bell. The Hurricanes left tackle all of last year and got a good bit of run in 2024 when Jalen Rivers was hurt. We all knew about the size, 6'9", 346. Arm length, because again, that's important for everyone. 36 and 3/8 inches, 87 and 1/8 inches wingspan. But the real number that really turned heads, he at 6'9" and 346 ran a 5.35 40-yard dash, which really got a lot of people looking at him. His ESPN named him one of the biggest draft risers or stock risers from the combine in terms of the offensive lineman, and potentially moved him from the question of, is he going to get drafted at all, to potentially being a surefire day 3 pick. Just because, again, we saw what he was able to do at UM in terms of his role at left tackle, didn't allow a sack all season, to now showing that with that, he has the speed on top of the size. If he gets 1 or 2 teams interested, there's no reason why team wouldn't take a flyer on him and say 5th, 6th, 7th round. I mean, size goes far, especially as an offensive lineman in the NFL. If he's able to just get 1 or 2 teams impressed enough, he's got a chance to do something there.
I was going to say the size itself has scouts salivating, I'm sure, but then when you combine that element of speed there. So if Ruben Bain's a Raptor, he's what, like one of those pterodactyls, like comes in with a wingspan and like swoops in, like we're doing a bunch of dinosaur references. What would Markel Bell be, Jordan?
I mean, dinosaurs aren't my strong suit. I'm going to be honest here.
We're gonna watch Jurassic Park Dominion again, no, I don't recommend anyone watch Jurassic Park Dominion. I suffered through that in the theater. So
a pterodactyl sounds good. I mean, let's just go with that.
Yeah, let's just go with that. And then we're going with that, and we're going to switch up to Pro Day. That's coming up next. And of course, the spring game. But just what to look forward to for Canes fans going into those days.
Yeah, so Pro Day, the team has set it as March 23rd. So we're a little less than 3 weeks away from that, which is going to be good. Again, something to note at the combine, a lot of the guys didn't really do the agility drills or things like that at the combine, the UM players who did go. So they're going to be doing a lot that they didn't do at the combine at Pro Day, which is going to be key for scouts making a lot of their final evaluations and then setting that final impression before doing one-on-one meetings with teams and whatnot. And there are also a few guys from the team who were key contributors who weren't at the combine. One who really surprised me that didn't get an invite was Keelan Marion, who was essentially their number 2 wide receiver last year behind or number 3 receiver behind Malachi Tony and CJ Daniels. CJ Daniels also is one who I'm keeping my eye on moving forward with the draft process. I mean, we saw, again, missed a lot of the time with injury, but I like what I saw from him, and we know the leadership and the off-field intangibles that he brings to a team. We saw that a lot this season. So he and Keelan Marion are going to be very interesting to watch when we get to pro day. And then once we get to spring ball, it's going to be all eyes on Darian Mensah. I mean, quarterback, since the last time we actually did a show, which we did, our last show was right before everything became official. So Darian Mensah is official. He's on campus. Cooper Mercade is official. He's on campus. Everybody from that transfer portal is on campus, and we're going to get our first eyes on them toward the end of the month. And then from then going in through April to start really seeing what this team looks like. How will Darian Mensah fit in? What's this completely overhauled offensive line going to look like? Because remember, you have Francis Mauigoa in the draft. You have Markel Bell in the draft. You have James Brockermeyer in the draft. You have Inez Cooper in the draft. You only have 2 guys coming back from your starting offensive line in Matthew McCoy and Samson Okunlola. So you have to figure out your other 3 spots. How are they going to replace Ruben Bain? How are they going to replace Akeem Mesidor? How are they going to replace Keontae Scott and Jacoby Thomas in the secondary? How are they going to replace Wesley Bassaint at linebacker? How is this new wave of wide receivers that are going to complement Malachi Toney? A decent amount of veterans, a decent amount of newcomers. How are they going to gel? There are a lot of questions, even though the Hurricanes do return a lot of talent. There are a lot of things that Mario Cristobal and company are going to have to figure out over those 3, 4, 5 weeks that they end up having with spring before they get into the season. And also remember, there's no spring transfer portal this time around. So what they have on the roster, what they have at their disposal at spring practice is their team. They're not going to be able to add in guys like they did last time when they were able to get a Motore after spring ball, when they were able to get a Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott after spring ball. It's what you have now is what you have. So they're going to have to figure things out. And then if they notice that they're deficient in some spots, they're going to just have to deal with it and work it out.
Yeah, it puts the onus on like the early shopping, the early recruiting has to be done, and then it puts the onus on really starting to develop even more in spring football than it did in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like you said, a lot of good problems to have, but a lot of questions to be answered in terms of more, not so much that you look at it and say maybe they're deficient in an area. It's more like, can they gel quick enough in an area? And I think you're going to see that a little bit more in the offseason. I mean, it'll be good for them too. They didn't have this last year. Carson Beck, we remember, was hurt. Now you're going to have the quarterback. Your starting quarterback is going to be healthy enough to fully participate in the offseason. So that should make a difference as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And again, it should be, just that part with Mensah is going to be key, especially because Beck at least had the advantage of the offensive line in front of him. Even if he didn't work with them, that entire group had worked together. So even if he was just able to just stand and watch, he knew, and the coaching staff knew that no matter what, whoever was going to be quarterback was protected. The fact that you're going to have to work with basically a brand new offensive line and figure out the synergy with them, and while they figure out their synergy, that's all the more paramount for Darian Mensah this spring.
Yeah. But the great point, and true, very true, that you have to, there's gelling going on. There's acclimation going on, not just from Darian Mensah's perspective, but in front of him as well. And that's obviously going to be key. And the running back situation that you mentioned before as well. Some guys getting broken in there too. But overall, that's the latest on the football team. We promised we were going to jump into a couple of the other prominent sports at in this show, and we're going to go to the baseball diamond now. This team was dropping runs like a video game for 10 games, 10-0. Great start for J.D. Arteaga and those guys. Then they run into the hated Gators, if you're a Miami fan, who come into Mark Light. They didn't end up playing all 3 games. The Sunday game got rained out. But the first 2, kind of frustrating if you're a Canes fan. The first couple games, if you remember, Miami jumped out in front a couple of times in these games, had a chance. The first game was 2-2 going into the 8th inning before Aquinas grad A.J. Siskar ran into some trouble. The Gators end up scoring 5 in the 8th and take that first game. Then in the second game, Derek Williams hits a 3-run shot. Miami jumps in front 3-0. Then all of a sudden, the second inning, they give up 4 runs. Rob Evans struggles a little bit, even though he ended up striking out 12 in the game overall, which is impressive. Miami battles back. They tied at 4, and then another 4 runs given up late by the bullpen. So kind of a mixed bag there. I know in the end, only thing J.D. Arteaga and those guys are going to care about is they ended up 0-2 in the series. But some things to look at there. Obviously, the offense, not bad. Good start, as we know, against the crappier teams early on when they went 10-0. But they were able to hit the Gators in spots. But the pitching The starting pitching looked a little bit better than the bullpen did. Again, it's going to be 13 games once they play Bethune-Cookman on this Wednesday night as of this recording. But it's early. But what are your takes so far on this team? The lineup, like we said, looks better, but that pitching is a little bit mixed results.
Yeah, and that was basically what the question was going to be coming in. I mean, they basically replaced their entire bullpen this year from what they had last year between guys leaving for the draft, guys transferring, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to touch on a couple things on the Florida series really quick, specifically that Saturday game. Again, I think it was the 8th inning, I believe it was, when all hell really broke loose, and it was the 7th inning. My apologies. Ryan Bilka comes in with, I think he had 2 on after Rob Evans walked and hit a batter the first 2. Bases were loaded with no outs. Strikeout. He had strikeout. I believe it was. Let me actually pull up the play-by-play because it was frustrating how actually everything unfolded. It was, strikeout. Had a 2-strike count, and then throws a pitch. Looks like it's a fly ball to center field. Mikey Torres gets the ball. Looks like he gets out of the jam, except a balk was called. Runner from third gets to trot home. When looking at the video and everything, the delivery, the movement, everything from Ryan Bilka the entire time, his movement and delivery was exactly the same. So he was either balking the entire time and it didn't get called until the most pivotal moment, or he never balked at all and the third base umpire made the decision and called it at, again, the most inopportune time. And then things unraveled in the 9th inning. They just had Bilko go the rest of the way because he's their one real reliable reliever. With it being a 1-run game, left a split finger pitch over the middle of the plate, 3-run home run in the 9th. A 1-run deficit becomes a 4-run deficit. So that Saturday game was a lot closer than that final score indicated. The Friday game, they gave up the 5 runs in the 7th. They used like 5 pitchers that inning. That inning just completely unraveled. Rough one there. But like you said, overall, I like what I've seen from AJ Siskar. He has a 3.0 ERA through 18 innings over 3 starts, 22 Ks, hasn't walked a batter. That's my main thing from AJ Siskar. Right. The command on top of the high strikeout rate. That's been incredible to see. And Rob Evans moving into the rotation second weekend of the season, when they had a 4 games in 3 days, so they needed somebody with an extra push for the doubleheader. So they had Rob Evans and Lazaro Calera both go on Saturday. And now Rob Evans has taken Lazaro Calera's spot as the number 2. But Rob Evans, 12 innings pitched and 23 strikeouts. Last time I checked, that's pretty good. I mean, you're averaging 2 strikeouts an inning. I'll take that. Solid. And again, he got roughed up a little bit in the Florida game. That 4-run second inning was brutal, but it was a bloop single here, a dash here, a tough play here. So it was literally, he got singled to death. And then after the base got loaded, he had one bad play that was a 2-run double. But a lot of it was soft contact, this, that, and him just having to figure out how to get out of it. He loaded the bases with no outs and got within 1 pitch from getting out of that jam with only giving up 1 run. And then 1 bad pitch allowed the inning to keep going. But I like what I see from Siskar. I like what I see from Rob Evans. They need to figure out their number 3 starter situation, and they need to figure out their bullpen, which is where those first 2 weeks really don't give you much answers, because when you're running up on the opponents, you have really no true high leverage situations. So You don't know who your guys are, who you can trust in the big situation, in the big games, like the Florida series, until you have to throw them out there in the Florida series. So Arteaga was sort of going in blind. They knew Bilko was going to be one of their guys, but other than that, they really still haven't really truly figured out their group. There are a couple of their guys who I do like. Michael Fernandez has been decent, 3 innings, 0 ERA. TJ Coates, they've used him for length, 6 and 2/3 innings, 2.7 ERA over 3 appearances. Packy Bradley Cooney's a guy they've run out a lot, 5 appearances already. But until they truly get into those high leverage situations, and you need to figure out how you bridge from your starter to your closer, we're not going to know who those roles are. Yeah. And then I'll just quickly touch on the offense, which, I mean, you have Daniel Cuvée. He has 6 home runs, 16 RBI already. Alex Sosa, the catcher they got from NC State. Fantastic story. He's grew up down in Miami, grew up a Hurricanes fan. His parents and grandparents are season ticket holders. He remembered sitting in the stands watching guys like Zach Collins hitting home runs into the garage in right field, and then went to NC State for 2 years, comes back, first game of the season, boom, home run to the garage in right field, right where he watched Zach Collins and told Zach Collins one time as a fan, hey, can you hit a home run there? And he kept mashing so far. 5 home runs, 18 ribbies, almost an 1150 OPS. Derek Williams, one of their other key returners, is hitting 550. And then a couple of surprising freshmen so far. Dylan Dubovic, who was a two-way star at Plantation American Heritage last year, hitting 565 with a 1680 OPS as a true freshman. 13 for 23 so far through his first 9 games, 11 ribbies through his first 9 games. And switch hitting catcher Alonso Alvarez, he's essentially been the number 2 to Alex Sosa this year. Starts maybe once or twice a week behind the plate, and then depending on where he is in the rotation for the DH, get some starts there. Hitting 481, 2 home runs, 2 triples, 4 doubles. So 8 of his 13 hits have gone for extra bases so far. Alonso Alvarez is a true freshman. They have the offense. They have a lineup that can really do damage. Their main goal is going to be making sure that their pitching staff keeps them in it enough so that the offense can do what it has to do and doesn't waste what the offense does on any given night.
Right. And that's the thing. Like you mentioned, I was shaking my head in a good way with Dubovic, because he, even at Heritage, it was one of those where he'd just spring up on you and he could rake. Like he came up with big moments and got the big hits. So interesting to see him carry that over immediately at Miami. That's good for him. That's good. Yeah. That's a good sign. I mean, if this team can't pitch, they're not going to Omaha, so they'll figure it out. But it just strikes me, it's like you and I both know, being baseball writers, Jordan, throughout at points in our career, it's like a pro team in April where you're seeing things, and it's kind of still at that point where it's like, don't be too harsh, don't be too high or low on this team yet. There's a long season to go. We're going to see what happens. Obviously, as you're watching and listening to this, they've already played Bethune-Cookman in a midweek game, so that's 13 games into the season at that point. But their first ACC series is this weekend at home against Boston College. You would think a potentially winnable series in a sense if they play well there. So a long way to go for sure. I know we wanted to close the baseball segment with some milkshake talk. I don't know if we want to bring in our guest already. I know we're bringing her in for basketball, but I'm sure she's had a Mark Light shake before. We're going to bring in Michelle Kaufman, our University of Miami basketball writer. Good morning, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
We weren't going to get to the
Good morning. I need a new backdrop. I need a backdrop of the Watsco Center.
We need a Watsco Center backdrop. We'll explain for those of you who don't watch our Inter Miami podcast. We usually co-host the Inside Inter Miami pod, which you should check out. It talks a lot about Lionel Messi and many other things around the team. Michelle's backdrop is that of Chase Stadium. I was going to say, Michelle, forget about Watsco Center. We need a Miami Freedom Park, which is now
new stadium.
New stadium.
It's now called New Stadium. I just right now this minute posted a story. NU Stadium. I said that Lionel Messi went from Camp Nou to New Stadium.
That's right. I knew I had heard that name. Yeah, it's all the whole soccer thing. But we're talking real quick.
It all comes together.
It all comes full circle. But real quick, wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've had a Mark Light shake in the past.
Banana. Banana's
okay.
my favorite.
All right, that's what I wanted. Yeah, we were going to talk about it. It's that season. We're wrapping up our little baseball segment here and talking a little bit about what our favorite ones. I'm still traditional. I still go with the sugar cane because of the cookie dough. What about you, Jordan?
Okay.
So I did sugar cane on Sunday before the UF game got rained out. I love a good Oreo shake. That's usually my staple. I will say the new one they made this year for Coach Mario Cristobal, they have a cafecito shake now. Coffee chip ice cream, a shot of cafecito, and whipped cream.
Wow. I got it on the open. $80 million? Wait, does it cost $80 million to get it?
It's only, again, all the general shakes now are either $11 or $12. That one was only $14 or $15.
Only $14.
Only a couple extra dollars for the shot of cafecito.
A little bit overpriced for the Mario Cristobal shake. A little more. You have to pay a little bit extra for
But
Little bit extra.
if you're working a long day like I did that day, I covered Marlin spring training in the morning and then shot all the way down to Coral Gables to cover a 7 p.m. game. It kept me away for the game. So that's really what works for me. And for those of you, just the usual reminder when we talk about this, each weekend series, the fine people at Mark Light Shake, they do a specialty shake based off of the opponent. This weekend being Boston College, I may or may not have already whispered in the ears of the owner saying, you got to do a Boston cream pie one this week. It's the easiest layup of layups.
Yep. Probably. I mean, I know the themed ones are always a hit for sure. So that's a good one with the Mario shake, because, you know, the sugar coma will get you a little tired. And then that jet fuel Cuban coffee is going to get you going for sure, like it did for you, Jordan. So
yeah,
if you have a chance, get out there. Like Jordan said, not only good shakes, but good people there selling them too. And I know they do a lot with the high school community too. You always see like the kids out there selling that stuff and raising funds for their programs and whatnot. So good experience at Mark Light. But let's shift over to the aforementioned Watsco Center, where a lot of good things are happening with those programs, especially on the men's side, with a revival of a program that was dead. I mean, dead doesn't even cover it at 7-24 last year. And that's why we're bringing in Michelle to talk a little bit about Jay Lucas and the amazing turnaround. We know that they flipped the roster from top to bottom. They flipped the coaching staff from top to bottom, but that doesn't always guarantee success. So there's something to it, how this team has turned things around. As of this recording, they're getting ready to face SMU in a key late regular season game. But this team already considered a lock to make the NCAA tournament, most likely. Not a complete lock, but almost there. Almost there.
I mean, they're in third place.
Pretty
they're
much.
in third place in the ACC. I think
they're in third place.
They're going to make it.
Yeah, they're in third place in the ACC.
Wins.
23-6
wins.
Yeah, and they have they're one win away from securing a double bye in the ACC tournament. So to go from the basement, not even making the ACC tournament, to now being guaranteed in the top 5, one victory away from being in the 3rd seed. Michelle, you can't say enough about the job they've done over there, I'm sure.
No, I mean, I keep telling anybody who asks, or anyone I run into that wants to talk about UM basketball, that I really feel when I'm watching Jay Lucas, and I'm old. I've been in this business for 40 years, and I've seen a lot of coaches come and go in every sport. Jay Lucas he's the real deal from what I can see. I feel he just turned 37 years old. And this is his very first head coaching job. I really feel like I am watching the first year, the ground floor of what is going to be an amazing career for this coach. I think we're going to be talking about Jay Lucas in 10 years and 20 years, 30 years, whatever. I think the biggest thing now is UM is going to have to try to keep him, but he is, what he has done with this program, what Coach L built this program, what he did was unbelievable. We are not going to ever downplay what Coach Larinaga did. He took this team to the Elite Eight in the Final Four back to back. No one would have ever thought that possible with the rosters that he had. Nobody would have traded rosters with him, and he ended up going to the Elite Eight in the Final Four. But once the transfer portal and the NIL deals really got big and all this stuff happened, Coach L everything just sort of fell apart the last 2 years. He didn't have as much money that Jay Lucas has right now. The resources that UM is putting into basketball NIL are more under Jay Lucas than they were under Coach Larinaga. But also, Coach Larinaga and everyone in that peer group, that age group, they all pretty much left in the ACC. Jim Boeheim, Leonard Hamilton, Jim Larinaga, Coach Krzyzewski, Tony Bennett at Virginia. The list goes on. That generation just didn't, or at least Coach L and some of these coaches, the game was different. Not the game on the court, but the game off the court. Jay Lucas, what he's done, I'm going to say real quick because I know you don't have a ton of time, is what he has done is he had a very clear plan from the beginning. Part A of his plan was he wanted to bring in players who have some Florida ties and players who knew each other from AAU and Florida and state connections. And the reason is, he said from the first time I met him, that in this day of transfer portal, when you're bringing in 12 new players, a completely new roster in this case. Not one player on this team was on the team last year. Not one coach was on the team last. This is a brand new program, period. He said, you need a common thread. You need something for them to rally around. So he decided to go reach out to guys who had left the state of Florida, to go to Michigan, to go to Indiana, to go to TCU, and said, hey guys, come on back. Come on back to Florida. Let's represent your home city, your home state. Let's show everyone that they can play basketball. You don't have to leave the state to play basketball. So it turns out that all these guys, Trey Donaldson from Tallahassee, Ernest Ude from Orlando, Malik Renew, they all knew each other from AAU. They knew each other well. Dante Allen from down here.
Mm-hmm.
The only one who was really an outsider was the only two really are Drew Washington and Shelton. But Shelton is practically Jay Lucas's nephew. He went to his same high school. He grew up with Jay Lucas and his father, John Lucas, as his AAU coaches, as his mentors. So the team came in with a bond. Which is very unusual to have chemistry on a team with a bunch of guys from the transfer portal. Number two, real quick, he has decided that you don't need to be a three-point shooting team. You don't even need to be a high percentage shooting team from outside. He basically is making this success is predicated on physicality, points in the paint. They score like 50 points in the paint. They always outscore the other team in the paint. They get to the free throw line. Here's his deal with the free throw, because they don't have percentage-wise the greatest free throw shooting, but he says, as long as we make more than the other team attempts, make more free throws than the other team attempts, dominate points in the paint, dominate offensive rebounding. Those three areas have been his key, and he has convinced these players they have a mask, like a Jason mask, as their sort of rallying thing. Right. They give a Jason mask every game for the best player in the locker room. The reason is, he says, we are a big, ugly, physical monster. We are not a pretty team. We don't want to be a pretty team. We are a big, ugly, physical monster team. And they came up with this Jason mask idea, and this is what they are. They have an identity. I guess what I want to say is Jay Lucas came in with a plan and with a very specific identity, not just bring a bunch of guys in for the transfer portal, throw them out there, and let's see who can shoot threes. That's not what he did. He did the complete opposite.
Yeah. Well, that identity has gotten them to the number 22 ranking as of this week. They're projected by Joe Lunardi to be an 8th seed in the tournament, which I'm hoping for their sake, maybe they move up a teeny bit, because you don't want to be in that 8-9 matchup to then have to face the top seed the next round. But Michelle, in looking at this team in the long run, everything you just said, especially, Jay Lucas compares the blueprint to that like an Arizona. They're not a great outside shooting team, but they don't have to be.
He always compares them to Arizona,
because of that. But I'm curious, once tournament time comes around, say this team does win in the first round, when they get to the second round, odds are they're going to face at the very least maybe a top 3 seed. Does that formula work against some of the heavyweights? They have not had to face Duke this season. I don't know if they'll face them in the ACC tournament, but is this the bruising, like you said, ugly type of team that can give a Cam Boozer or someone like him fits and maybe even the odds a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. They beat North Carolina, that remains to be seen. They can shoot from it. The thing is, here's the thing. In the past few weeks, he did tell us that in the past few weeks, they have been emphasizing three-point shooting more than they had in the past. You will notice at True Washington, the last few games, they have been attempting more threes and making more threes. He says, because his formula was that if they take 20 threes in a game, if they take 20 and make 8 to 10, that's usually good enough for them to win, combined with all the other stuff that we talked about. So he likes to get 8 to 10 three-pointers made. Maybe they take 20, so their percentage isn't that great. But if they make 8 to 10, that's good enough. he's got all these analytics that he's figured out that he really relies on. And the tournament and the ACC tournament is going to be a big test. I mean, Duke is, I'm not saying this because my daughter went to Duke and is a proud Blue Devil, which she is, but Duke is just rolling over everybody.
Yeah.
You know, Duke is beating people
they
by
are.
20, 30. They are just making good teams look very mediocre. So I don't know that I don't know too many teams that can really match up with Duke at this point. But as far as other top teams in the country, it really kind of depends on how they match up, or if Trey Donaldson can all of a sudden go off for 32 points, which he did recently. 32 points, you know, I mean, these guys are capable of shooting. It's just that is not what they are being instructed to do for most of the time. And the other thing I'm going to say about Jay Lucas too, is he's great as far as he's a good person. He seems to be a good person, you know, on and off the court. He's really good with the media. He's very good with the players. His assistant, CY Young, said that the thing about him is that the thing about Jay Lucas, his secret sauce, so to speak, is that he is demanding but not demeaning. He said he's demanding but not demeaning, which is interesting because you look at him. First of all, he looks 12 years old. Okay. He looks like he could be a ball kid. He looks so young. He's so little. He's the smallest guy out there. He's shorter than most of the team managers. He's a little guy, and he seems like this soft-spoken, nice guy, but he is very demanding. He's demanding of the players, but he does it in a respectful way. So anyway, all of this is my way of saying that Jay Lucas is one of the best hires Miami has ever made in any sport, in my opinion. And I've seen a lot at UM over the years. He's a great hire, and I think other teams are going to come after him. He is going to be wooed by other programs that have a bigger basketball footprint, and it'll be interesting to see if they can keep him.
Yeah. Michelle, I wanted to ask you about one player in specific, and you talked about Trey Donaldson, you talked about a bunch of them. Malik Reneau, just how impactful has he been this year, and how critical is he going to be once again to ACC tournament and beyond?
Oh God, Malik is a guy who he gets to 20 points quieter than anybody else. You barely notice. It looks like, oh, he made this bad, he made this one, and then all of a sudden you look up and he's got 20 points and 10 rebounds. You know, he is very good. He has incredible body control around the basket. He is just so smooth. He right in the middle of traffic, he'll just drive in. And the thing is, he can score from everywhere. He can shoot a three once in a while and make it. He can shoot the mid-range jumper. He's really good around the paint. I mean, he is able to get an offensive, get a rebound and knock it back in, get the put back. And it looks effortless. The thing is, he makes it look so easy, which is the sign of a great player in any sport. It's like Roger Federer used to be on the tennis court, someone who just makes it look simple. Malik just has great body control, I think, around the basket. He is going to be extremely critical. He's been their leading scorer all season. He's a quiet guy. He's a soft-spoken guy. He's not like a big rah-rah, guy, but the guy can play. He can really, really play. And he's played in big games before because he came from Indiana. He knows from his time there what the tournament is like, what March is like, what March Madness is like. And the same goes for Trey. The same goes for True. These are guys who have played in big programs, in big tournaments. And I think that all of that experience is really going to serve them. The one thing is their bench is very shallow. They have a pretty tiny bench as far as production. This last game, Noam Dovrat had 4 threes, which was amazing. 12 points. That's the most he had all year. If he can do that going into March, that's going to really help them. But True Washington comes off the bench now, which is a great spark off the bench. He's basically, he's the sixth man. beyond that, they've had trouble getting production from the bench, and that could be an issue also in March.
It's like the old Pat Riley Miami Heat rotations that only went about 7-8 deep, but hey, it worked sometimes when they had it. But yeah, as long as everybody's intact and healthy, it'll be fine. But let's talk before we go, Michelle, about the women's team. Obviously, not in the same situation, but as of this recording, they'll have played Stanford in the ACC tournament. They were the 12th seed, 16-13 going into the tournament. I guess, what are your thoughts so far on what Coach Tricia Cullop and the Hurricanes women have been able to do, and what do you think is I guess missing there that maybe to be able to replicate the kind of success that Katie Meyer had in her years there to get back to the point they were a couple of years ago when they made the Elite Eight?
Yeah, they're better this year than they were last year. So a year ago at this time, they were not in the tournament. A year ago at this time, they went out to California. They had to beat either Stanford or Cal to make the ACC tournament, and they've lost both. So, Coach Cullop told us yesterday it was a very long plane ride home from California last year. This year, they're already in a better position than they were last year. So they have improved. They are in the ACC tournament, playing against Stanford, like you said. The team is better than it was last year, but it is still sort of a middle of the pack team. They had some good wins, but they also had some bad losses. At the end of the season, now the Georgia Tech game, they lost by 30, which was a really bad loss to end your season on a really bad loss like that going into the March Madness is not great. Also, she was brought in here to help raise attendance also, because when she was at Toledo, University of Toledo, the men's team and the women's team drew the same. They had the same attendance pretty much for the men's and women's teams at the University of Toledo. But she has discovered, as all coaches do in all sports when they come to Miami, professional and college, Miami is not Toledo. Miami is Miami. And you have to win. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I hate to say it. I'm from Miami. I'm a proud Miami native, Miami native and everything, but grew up here. But fans down here are not going to show up just to support the program. That happens in Toledo. That happens in other parts of the country. That does not happen in Miami. That's with the football team, with the men's basketball team, with the women's basketball team. It's all the same. You got to win. If you win, the fans will show up. So the attendance has been bad this year for the women's program. Not that it was great before, but it's down toward the bottom of the ACC. And that's one of the things that she was supposed to do, is bring more fans, because she had done it at Toledo, but it's very challenging here. So Tricia Cullop has faced some big challenges here, but I do think they are better this year than they were last year. Rashea Kyle was just named first team All ACC, which right. is, that is something to have a player be first team All ACC. She's had a great season. I think 19 double doubles, which is really great. So, again, I think if she can build on this for next year and get them to, the top third of the ACC is really tough in women's basketball, by the way. The ACC in the women's side is deeper than it is on the men's side. I think if she can get them to the top third next year, I think that would be the next step.
Yeah, and they're in a situation where they probably would have to win the ACC tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. But like you said, strides being made for that program. Unlikely with a lot of the heavyweights that are in the ACC, like you mentioned before. But a building block for next season for them, and we'll keep an eye on what happens with the men's team, like we talked about before. SMU, as of this recording, they'll have played them already. Then obviously a finale against Louisville, the home finale on Saturday against Louisville at 2:00. Another big game, because Louisville's another one of those teams in the fight for an NCAA tournament spot. And then after that, next week, the Hurricanes men will be in their own ACC tournament, and we'll see where it goes from there. Not that far removed from a Final Four. Obviously, they crashed and burned, and now back with, like you said, potentially one of the great young coaches in the game today, in Jay Lucas. But we'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about that, talk a little bit about more football and how the baseball team's doing as well. We'll do a little combo in this overlap period with Jordan McPherson. But we want to thank Michelle Kaufman for jumping in and talking a little hoops with us on Eye on the U. Until then, everybody, thank you for watching us on YouTube. Remember to catch us there. And and or MiamiHerald.com if you can only listen to us as well. Check us out on Spotify or any of your favorite podcatchers. Until then, I'm Andre Fernandez for Michelle Kaufman and Jordan McPherson. Enjoy the games, everybody. We'll be back next week on Eye on the U.